Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's episode of McGill Minute. My name is Mary Frances Kiffmeyer, and I serve as marketing manager at McGill. It is college career fair season for engineering schools, and many students are looking for that right company for them to jumpstart their career. At McGill, we look forward to this time of year. It is our opportunity to meet future employees and leaders at our firm. For students, career fairs provide that first introduction to a company where they might advance to either intern or find employment. Today, we're talking with two of our engineering associates, Natalie Croom and Noah Green. Natalie graduated with a degree in environmental engineering from Clemson University. She's been with McGill for 1 year and works with various disciplines across our geographical footprint. Noah graduated with a degree in civil and environmental engineering from the University of North Carolina, Charlotte. Noah interned with McGill and has been on staff as an engineering associate on our water wastewater team for a little over 2 years. Good morning. I'm eager to hear what both of you have to say, so let's jump right in. Natalie and Noah, I'm sure our audience would like to hear more about your career progression and how you both came to work at McGill. Natalie, let's start with you. How did your career start and progress?
So I started in college on my junior year at an internship with a separate engineering firm, but decided to join McGill after graduation when I realized that I didn't really have a specific engineering discipline in mind, specialty in mind. And so McGill gave me the opportunity to work with multiple disciplines. And so that was a great experience to start with. And I'm continuing to do that now. And it's been fantastic.
Cool. What discipline are you pursuing now?
So I'm still working with both civil and water wastewater teams here. And so haven't decided exactly what I want to continue with specifically, but it's been fantastic to be able to work on both teams and get experience in both.
That's great. Noah, what about you?
So everything with me started my junior year in college. I was looking for an internship. I was in Charlotte, but really wanted to wind up in Western North Carolina. And so I was looking around on the web, found McGill Associates, but at the time did not see any internships posted. So I decided to just give them a call and called the Hickory office and ended up with an interview. They wanted to bring me on as an intern. So I interned that summer. It would have been going into my senior year, and then ended up interning a little bit more, like fall break, winter break, and then was offered a position with McGill. And now I've been with McGill for a little over 3 years, pretty much on the water wastewater team.
And did you always know you wanted to go water wastewater?
That was kind of up and down. I first went into the career thinking structural engineering, like a lot of civil engineers, but then ended up finding out that I was a little bit more passionate about environmental engineering. That's why I've gone down this career path.
So when looking for that first opportunity, what was a must-have for you in a company? Noah, let's start with you this time.
So I had two things. Number one is one of the things I really like to look for is an opportunity for career progression. And what I mean by that is in 4 years, I don't want to be doing the same thing. I don't want to have the same role. I want to have the ability to progress. You look at someone here at McGill Associates like R.J. Mosley. R.J. Mosley started at NC State. He interned with the company. He was hired on as an engineering associate like I am. He got his PE, became a project engineer, and now is a project manager. And so when looking for that company and that opportunity, I look for a company that allows me to do that, allows me to take steps forward and progress in my career. The other thing I look for is work-life balance. Me personally, I really enjoy traveling, spending time with friends and family. And so I really look for a company that values those things as well.
That's great. Natalie, what about you?
I'd have to agree with everything that Noah said. I mean, having room for growth within the company is really important, and a good work-life balance is always really good. And really the only thing I'd add is One of the main things that I look for is bosses and coworkers that are nice and hopefully fun to work with and can mesh well with each other. And I've found that at McGill, and it's a healthy work environment and coworkers that are a joy to work with is really important.
So, Natalie, what made you think McGill had that good balance and that culture that you were looking for? Did you find that when you were searching and looking at McGill, or did you find that once you started working at McGill?
I found that during the interview, actually. So I interviewed with three separate people in the office here in our Asheville office. And really, it was just a fun interview. I mean, we got through all of the basic resume things, talked about myself, asked about the company, figured out all the logistics of the company and what they do and all of the teams that they work with. And then it kind of progressed to just other conversations. I found out that McGill has a softball team here in Asheville, that we create a softball team with coworkers and play in a league in Asheville. And that sounded fantastic to me. I'm like, yes, I play softball. I can do that. And kind of just had a fun conversation and walked around and really enjoyed the dynamic that everybody had with each other, and realizing that even outside of work, people got together and had fun and had those opportunities to mesh.
Natalie, tell us about how you went about vetting companies to apply with.
So, like I mentioned before, I wasn't 100% sure what field of engineering I wanted to go into. So, when I interviewed with multiple companies that had multiple slots open for civil engineering, water, wastewater, environmental engineering type jobs, I was really looking for just a company that I meshed with, like I said before, and that gave me an opportunity to grow in the company. So I didn't really have restrictions with location or size. And so I had many different areas that I could look into, and was just trying to find something that that worked well with me and that I enjoyed the job. Thought that I might enjoy the job.
Okay, so let's discuss college career fairs for a minute. Did either of you attend those? And if so, what value did they provide? Noah, let's start with you.
Yeah, so I attended quite a few, and I'll kind of walk you through my whole experience with them. I remember first going to my first college career fair. I was looking for an internship, and I thought I'd go into this career fair and I'd find an internship. I thought this thing was going to be the end all be all, but kind of by going through several of them, I found out that they kind of aren't the end all be all, and that they do provide value and an opportunity for you, the individual, to learn about the companies, figure out what companies you do want to work for, which ones you might not want to work for. It really provides you an opportunity to network. But my mindset was, I'm not going to really find a job here. I might find a company that I'm interested in working with. And if I do want to do that, then I need to put in work on the back half. I need to get these folks, to get their cards. I need to email them. I need to call them. And that was kind of my mindset going into these. They did provide opportunity, but you still had to do quite a bit of work on the back half to actually get a job, get an interview, get an internship.
What about you, Natalie?
So I also attended multiple career fairs, both to get an internship my junior year and also a permanent job, which I found McGill at my college career fair, so that was good. But not only is a career fair a good place to learn about a ton of companies and meet people and potentially find a job like I did, although Noah said it's not the only place you can find a job. Often people just go there to meet companies, see them, learn about them, and then maybe find a career with them later on. But it's also a good place that I found a great place to work on your communication skills that are essential in your career, because essentially you're walking up to a person you've never met. You got to introduce yourself. You got to find a way to learn about them and their company while also making a meaningful impression, because they're meeting hundreds of students during that career fair, and making a good impression is really important, and it tends to help a lot of people get out of their comfort zone and help them get a lot of practice, because you can just keep walking up to people, and if it didn't go well, then you turn around and do it again with another company. And I found that really valuable.
That's a really good point. That can be challenging. Okay, so Noah, having interned and then being hired at McGill, what was it about McGill that stood out to you?
Yeah, so interning did allow me to see the company, firsthand. Allowed me to see how folks work within the office. Allowed me to see how well I was going to work with the managers. So it kind of plays off of what Natalie has said. It allowed me to go ahead and see the culture of the company up front and see how, I was going to mesh well with this company. I was able to see that the managers, wanted to see me as an individual progress in my career. They weren't interested solely in, me cranking out plan sets and specs and calculations. Yes, I needed to do that type of thing, but they were also interested in seeing me grow and potentially become a project manager, maybe become the president of the company. And so that was really just allowed me to see that I really could have a long-term career with this company and be successful and be happy. Secondly, it allowed me to see, working at McGill would allow me to have the opportunity to work on large-scale projects. As a water wastewater engineer, I'd be able to work on these large projects. And then also I was able to see in my internship that McGill was working with, new and emerging technologies within this field, which also interested me. I wanted to kind of be on the cutting edge and be working with these things. And McGill was definitely a company that wasn't scared to look into these technologies and implement them. So that also was a big driver and allowed me to be attracted to this company.
So Noah, what were the differences between working in school and then working for a company?
Big differences I found was the ability to work in a team. In college, I always found it difficult to work in a team. You were always just assigned to a team, and there was always, everybody had this experience. There was always that one individual that was the slacker, and you were always going to have to pick up their slack. That always came back to me as working in a team in college. I was always the one, putting in the overtime, putting in the extra hours. But transitioning into McGill and into a company, I found just working as a team was just a much more positive experience. Everybody was here, ready to put, hard work in, ready to work together. And this was honestly the first time I had a really positive experience working in a team. And I really just value, my colleagues around me and just really enjoy working with everybody. And like I said, it's just a really positive experience.
All right, Natalie, let's talk about the interview itself. Do you have any advice on important things to remember during the interview process? And what successful interview tips do you have for those listening in?
So I'd like to start with just saying that you should always research your companies and your interviewers, if you can, beforehand, so that you can get an idea of how to start the conversation and what to talk about there. And then after that, good interviewing tips is just meaningful eye contact. Make sure you're paying attention. Show them that you're paying attention with that eye contact and taking the occasional notes that you can either look back to later on while you're trying to decide, or that those notes can help you formulate questions at the end of the interview, because you should always, always, always have questions, because it shows that you're interested in the company. It shows that you're taking the initiative to ask those questions. You can come prepared with those generic questions, or think of new ones based on the conversations you've already had. And I think it's important to tell the interviewers, about yourself, things about yourself that aren't on the resume. So obviously you got to get through the resume, talk about what you've learned, your experiences before, but then just be yourself and talk between yourselves. Like in my interview, I already said, we talked about playing softball. McGill has a softball team, so we talked about sports I've played, talked about competitions, etc. And then just have a good conversation. Hopefully leave a good impression and just be yourself.
Those are great tips. I like that you mentioned very specific body language and some action things that you can do during your interview. So, Noah, they always say interviews are not only a company's opportunity to interview the candidate, but also your opportunity as a candidate to select the right company. What questions do you think candidates should consider asking the company they're interviewing with?
Yeah, it's a good question. For me, like I mentioned previously, kind of investigating that work-life balance was important to me, and seeing, are folks happy at the company? And a question that I found to be kind of helpful, or kind of a back way to figure that out, was to simply ask those giving the interview of, how long have you guys worked for McGill? And why I ask that is, no one's going to work at a company probably much more than a couple of years if they're unsatisfied with that company. And I remember specifically asking that question to the folks here at McGill, and the responses I got were like 15 years, 20 years. And then, now working for McGill, there's tons of people that have worked here 20 plus years, 25 years, which really speaks for the company. So I always think that's a great question to ask, just to kind of get a backhanded way into that. I also just simply ask for, is there opportunities for career advancement, as we previously talked about. And another thing that I like to ask, although this isn't quite in the interview process, but this is usually post-interview, after you've got a job offer and you're trying to determine, is this a good company for me? And what I like to do is, like I said, if you're offered a position, is to ask for employees' contact information that are at the kind of same level as you're going to come into. So ask, for here, it would be an engineering associate. So ask for an engineering associate's contact information, contact them, and get their unbiased opinion about the company. I have done that, and that's been very helpful to really get a good response. Project managers might always kind of just say positive things, but you might actually get a real genuine response from someone kind of lower down the totem pole.
That's a great idea, getting that one-on-one input. You both are fairly new in your roles. Share with us what has made the difference in jumpstarting your career. What has your manager done to help you explore development as an employee? What has been your greatest resource? So Natalie, let's start with you.
So I've truly valued, like I've said before, the opportunity that McGill has given me to work in multiple disciplines, because it's allowed me to become a better engineer, to give me the knowledge, even just small knowledge on a lot of different areas that often overlap. So it's helping me work better on projects, work better on teams, between teams in those projects. And my manager has been completely supportive in that area, allowing me to split my time and learn from all of these different disciplines, because most people don't know what they're doing when they start a new job or start a new position, especially coming right out of college. You always need to learn, and you need to have people that can help you and teach you in the office or in your job. And I found that my greatest resource here has been coworkers and their knowledge. And I don't feel intimidated going to any of my coworkers and asking them for help. If I need help, I go ask them. If I just want some more advice or getting stuck on something, I go ask them. And they have been really helpful at teaching me and allowing me to learn all of these really complicated things that engineers need to learn. And it's completely different than in college, because college is, you got a textbook and you follow the formulas in the textbook. And once you get to senior year, you got like projects that you can work on, but it's completely different coming into a company and having all of these different projects. And there's so many things that you need to learn on site in your job that are important to have knowledge on, and having those coworkers to teach you about. And especially during COVID, everything that's happening now, managers and coworkers have been really thoughtful. We have a thoughtful approach to balancing work and safety. And so I've really valued that as well.
Great. Noah, what about you?
I got to just piggyback off of Natalie, that having the opportunity to work on an array of projects and help, me identify which way I want to steer my career has just been very helpful. I'm kind of maybe a couple of years ahead of Natalie. And so I've worked on a decent amount of projects, and now I'm kind of steering my career towards, obviously in the water wastewater discipline, I'm really steering it towards the process side, which means working specifically on water plants and wastewater plants. So that's kind of how I've steered my career, and that's been very helpful, in the past couple of years to work on an array of projects. And again, like Natalie said, just it's been very helpful to have folks around me to kind of rely on, ask questions, and that's been very helpful.
Great. So as we wrap up, do either of you have advice for those seeking that first opportunity?
So what I always recommend to folks is, don't simply rely on submitting applications. College, I remember hearing kids say, "Oh yeah, I submitted 250 applications on Indeed." In my opinion, that's not really going to get you very far. And so I always recommend folks always emailing the employers with their resume and their cover letter, calling them if they've got a phone number. If you do submit an application on Indeed, follow it up with an email and say, "Hey, did you receive my application? Also, here's my resume and cover letter."
What about you, Natalie?
So I'd have to agree with Noah that it's important to make an impression. I mean, not just submitting an application, but calling them and following up and keeping on top of it is always really important. So it's always difficult to find that first opportunity, but I'd have to say 3 things at least. One is start looking early. You need to put out applications and call employers or make sure that you have a lot of options that you can then look at. Number 2 is keep in touch with alum or friends or family that would be able to connect you to great opportunities, because a lot of times you wouldn't be able to find those otherwise, and having someone to connect you is really important. And 3rd is, it's a stressful time. Looking for a job is always stressful, especially your first big job out of college, but try to enjoy it. It's a great opportunity to learn about a lot of companies and learn about a lot of great people and just enjoy your time with all of it.
Those are great answers. Thank you, Noah and Natalie. This has been great. That wraps up our McGill Minute. Thanks for your time today and sharing advice to those who are taking steps to advance their career. As we wrap up, I'd like to remind everyone to check out McGill's open positions on our website at McGillAssociates.com. If you have questions, you can also email our HR team at recruiting@McGillAssociates.com.